No, I got married.
Okay.
She works there, so we have a discount on the ball there. So yeah, it's gonna be really nice.
Oh, she's coming?
Yeah, she has an affordable housing
Okay.
request,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's in the packet.
Yeah, I gotta go.
I just got a moment, I looked up at the screen, I was like, wasn't she just here?
Travis is walking right now. Travis is walking right now.
Oh, yes, okay.
Did we still pass our motion to pass the approved minutes? There's only 3 of us. So we're here. Because he wasn't here last month.
I wish he was
here last month. So it's just Dave, myself, and Travis.
And then we're not getting anybody else.
You said that's question mark, right?
So yeah, we can.
Can we approve this or no?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call the Central Park CAC meeting to order.
What?
3:32.
You're recording? Thank you, I am.
Yeah, we are good recording.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right, is there any public comment today? And they're doing presentations, they're not public comment, correct?
They're doing a presentation, Melissa's here as part of that.
Yes, yes. Okay, great. All right, so we'll move on to action items, approval of the May 2025 meeting minutes. Anyone make a motion to approve those? Move. Okay, approve.
Second.
Okay. Anyone not in favor? All right, we'll go ahead and pass the May 2025 meeting minutes. We'll go ahead and start with the presentations, CRA grants and policy updates, CRA commercial grants and efficiency.
All right. Yep. Good afternoon. We are your commercial grants division. I'm Andrea Rosshaven, and these wonderful ladies are with me, Celeste and Tiffany. We're part of your, we're the economic development specialists on the team. And we appreciate you allowing us time to present to you today. We've allotted about 20 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions, if you're going to have any. As we ask you to save questions to the end, you might want to jot them down as they come to you. And if we cover a slide and you might want us to go back to the slide, just write down the number and we'll flip back to it when we get to that point. All right, jump right in. Following the approval of the current policy and grant portfolio, this team alone has conducted over 75 pre-application meetings. And that's not even represent half of the inquiries that we've responded to. People calling us to ask us questions, people verifying whether properties are in the district, things like that. As we've had these various discussions with people during these meetings, we've identified various areas that need improvement, like elements in the grant policy that may not have been outlined clearly, guidelines not quite accomplishing the board's intent, terminology not specifying how it will be applied, and initiatives not having as great an impact as we expected. So we've gone back and proposed some revisions to improve those efficiencies.
So here are some proposed revisions to the grant policy that are consistent with the board directives. Special project and non-funding requests will be limited to $1 million and city funding requests to $5 million. Guidelines and limits are also proposed for city funding requests. Any expenditure over $1 million will be reserved for CRA initiated projects and must follow the city's procurement process. We're proposing to establish parameters for allocating a portion of the special project grant / funding grant award funds to soft costs like architectural and design fees, and specifying them as reimbursement only. We're also proposing to offer tax-exempt properties access to exterior grant reimbursement opportunities. And unfortunately, due to the city's ethics policy, CAC members will not be eligible for special project grant fund or special grant funding, but they may still apply for the standard grants. And finally, we're proposing to remove the limit on legacy credit based on the owner's TIF contribution per property and define how often a property can receive legacy credit.
Okay, additional proposed updates to the commercial grant policy. Application submission. Language to allow special project and funding request applicants to apply for and obtain permits following their pre-application meeting prior to receiving their award letter or executed grant/funding agreement. This will allow special funding request applicants to apply for permits after the required pre-application meeting, but before receiving an award letter or signing a grant agreement. Award notification. Revising the tiered funding to combine levels 1 and 2, requiring grant agreements and restricted covenants for all awards, reclassifying the top category as level 3, reassigning it to CRA initiated project and outlining the process. It is revising the tiered funding by merging levels 1 and 2 into a new level 1, renaming the top tier as level 3, updating the processes for CRA initiated projects, and finally requiring agreements and restricted covenants for all grants. Appeals. Adding language to specify the process for the appeal staff award decision and specifying the basis options for which appeal may be requested. The policy updates will outline the appeal process for staff award decisions and define valid reasons for appeal. Resident grants. Adding the newly approved residential grant process to policy. The updated grant policy will include the new resident grant process to include the award process, AMI limits, the application steps, and more. For additional information, you can contact the resident team.
So some of the proposed changes are simply clarifications of our existing internal policies that appear to be potential confusion points for some of the applicants, such as defining our intended meaning of commercial use and mixed use, consistent with their definitions already established in the city's zoning code, universally applying the prohibition to reimburse for sweat equity or to contractors with a familial or financial relationship to the owner and applicant, and specifying that property owner's attendance is required at all pre-application meetings. We've also added more specific language to allow monthly progress payments and define the initial deposit amounts for those applicants using the direct contractor payments process. And some of the recommended changes apply only to specific grants, such as for the pre-development grant, we're proposing changing the structure to a consolidated scope of service, establishing a timeline to start construction of a designed project, requiring repayment for designs ultimately never constructed, updating the professional services contracting structure, and providing additional scoring opportunities to qualify for the grant. For the exterior grant, amendments include adding art installations, such as murals, to the eligible improvements, and updating the scoring matrix with additional bonus point opportunities. There were 5 items related to the existing requirements of the policy where we asked the CRA board at their June meeting to clarify their intent to make sure we were applying the policy in the spirit intended by them. The direction provided by the board, which will be incorporated in the proposed changes, include limiting architectural and historic preservation staff feedback for buildings 50 years and older that are not already subject to historic review under the city code to only a recommendation for restoration or reconstruction. Revising the interior grant to limit eligible improvements to those required to bring the structure into building code compliance, such as upgrading fire, electrical, plumbing, structural stabilization, and ADA accessibility. Removing the eligibility restriction on restaurants based on their allowed revenue of alcohol sales. To not expand the list of ineligible alcohol-focused establishments, leaving the restrictions in place for just bars, lounges, and nightclubs. And requiring full repayment of the grant amount for projects that transfer ownership to a tax-exempt entity or go into default during the first 5 years of their restrictive covenants.
And this is a recap of the changes and how they impact specific grants. Revising reimbursable improvements. Art is added as a reimbursable expense under the exterior grants. there are proposed changes to what will be reimbursable for the interior grants. Adding language referring to the definition of commercial and mixed use in the policy, so the definitions are added so that they can clarify the meaning of each word. Adding additional point opportunities to the application scoring criteria, so additional points have been added to the scorecard for the interior, exterior, and the pre-development grants. Adding language referencing the appeals process outlined in the policy. The steps to actual valid appeal is outlined in the for the exterior and the interior grants. Restructure grant, added construction timelines, and incorporated payment terms. It is proposed that the development level 1 and level 2 be consolidated into one, and that the terms for the payment and timeline be added.
So this table details the proposed revisions made to special project and funding requests. For requests less than $500,000, they will fall into the special projects category. For requests over $500,000 and all city requests will be funding requests. We're proposing to establish a maximum award percentage to contribute towards overall project costs. For the fourth revision, we're proposing to establish parameters for allocating a portion of the award for soft costs and specifying them as reimbursement only. These costs can include architectural design and engineering fees, permit fees, and site remediation and stabilization. We're proposing to revise the required waiting period to apply for another grant for special projects. And lastly, we're proposing revisions that would allow for special project and funding request applicants to apply for permits after the successful completion of pre-application meetings to obtain application required estimates for the proposed improvements. However, work will still not be commenced until receiving an award letter or executed grant/funding agreement. And this revision will be for both special projects and funding requests. So that concludes our update portion of this presentation. We want to remind you that if you have any questions or you want to learn more about the grants or want to initiate the application process, please visit the link you see here on the screen. The request for consultation button is where you would click to submit an inquiry, and one of the staff members will get in touch with you.
Okay. So Celeste's going to put some 20 minutes on the clock, and we'll open the floor for any questions you have. We do ask that you limit your questions to today's topic, which is the proposed policy updates. If you have questions about a specific property or grant opportunity, we're happy to schedule an individual meeting to discuss more in depth. So does anybody have any questions?
What was the catalyst that really got this going? Was there just things that were just, was it just the confusion and the verbiage that was really?
It's really, so the board approved the grants last June. And so as we've been implementing it, what we've encountered is, you always know things look great on paper, but then you start to implement, you realize there's things that may present challenges that were unanticipated, or things that you might need to clarify a little greater. So the majority of these changes are related to that. Some of like I said, some of the things are items where we needed the board to come back and be a little more clear about what the language was a little vague, and we needed them to be a little more specific about how they wanted those rules applied. And so this is basically a big housekeeping to try to make the grants a little better and make them work a little better. You know, including things like we added point opportunities. We realized that as we were scoring projects, that certain we had not anticipated things like properties that don't have any site, like they're like the lot lines, right? The building is the lot line. So you get extra points if you do a building and a site. But if you don't have site to do, then those people basically being penalized, and we hadn't accounted for a way to score them without. So things like that, where we're looking for opportunities to make them a little more streamlined and make them more accessible to people.
About the conflict, would you go over that again? Is that CRA or CAC? Yeah, that.
She has a business within the CAC. I think that's what she's curious about.
Oh, so if you're a CAC member, then the city's ethics policy, basically because the way that the special project grants come back to the CAC for recommendations for each district, this ethics policy for the city basically says that you can't, that you cannot apply for those grants because it's a conflict of interest.
Okay.
And there's no way to waive it because we've researched it with the lawyers.
I get that if it's the district, I mean, the one that you're in, but what if it's another one?
I'm thinking as long as you're not on the CAC, would be a great question, but I'm thinking as long as the conflict is really the CAC that's making the recommendation on the specific project. So if you had a property in a different district and you wanted to bring that forward as a special project, we'd have to ask the lawyers, but that doesn't seem to be it's an instance that's caused this problem.
In that case, I wouldn't be making a decision on it.
Right.
And CAC members are still, you guys are still eligible to apply for standard commercial grants. It's just for the special project grant because that's what goes in front of the CAC board.
Okay.
What did you say, something that I kind of picked up on that maybe was that you would have the ARC review before maybe and now you don't within certain, what was that about?
So for any property that is in a historic district or is in is a landmark or is historically designated, automatically goes through a city review if there's going to be a change to the building made. But a lot of the districts, the properties don't fall within those categories, but they're concerned about the communities losing the character of their community by having those buildings torn down and redone. And so what the original policy has in place is that any building over 50 years old that would not only be qualified to go through review, the city, we're making it go through to the city for review before we can, and then any recommendations they have, we're going to apply towards as a requirement for the grant. Well, we found that in some cases that makes it cost prohibitive to restore the building because they were giving us a full, you must use wood windows, you must use this material, you must do this thing. And we wanted to clarify with the board, is that the type of review you want, or you just want to know whether that the building's worth saving? And if they want our money, they'll save the building versus tearing it down. And so the board decided that basically we're going to limit the review by historic preservation to, is it okay to tear this building down? It has no historic value, or they need to restore the building if they want our funding. That's strictly the limit of what we're going to do is they're still going to be able to tear the building out if they want to, if it's not subject to normal city review. We just wouldn't be able to fund it. If historic preservation says save the building, it has historic significance, save the building, they wouldn't be able to get our grant unless they save the building.
Is there, or I'm assuming there will be, but as the grants are handed out, is there a place to review? Like, is that public information where what projects you're getting the grants?
You should be getting a report. Oh, yeah, you should be getting a report every month. There's a report sent to there's a report given to the CRA board every month, and then there's a grants report provided. And we provide the board everybody's, and then each CAC gets a report for just the ones in their district.
And for the tracking, on the tracking report for the, hi, this is Melissa. For the tracking report that has the above 500,000 commercial request, it shows there as a funding. It will say funding request and then the name of the project.
So Melissa's report is for projects that come in for $500,000 or more, and then our report is
For commercial. Okay, let me interrupt there. Only commercial projects. Housing projects that are 500,000 or more, that goes to B's team.
We don't really have that many residential properties within our boundaries as far as single family properties. We have more of the commercial aspect of them. And that's kind of what I was wondering, what there's let's see, in Nebraska between home and Redondo is up there, those buildings that are older and they were like apartment buildings and they have the commercial on the bottom side. There are very few, a lot of the buildings within our boundaries have been demolished. They got lots of them, but those are just a couple that are still standing. So that's what I was curious about about how that goes, and if those are privately owned, that person would be the one to be making the application, the actual owner, not the business themselves, correct?
So it can go either way. So typically it's the property owner who makes the application, but if the property owner has a tenant and the tenant wants to apply, the property owner can give them permission to apply. Okay. The property owner has to attend the first pre-application meeting, and has to sign documents acknowledging that they're letting their tenant apply, because especially if they have like a triple net lease, the tenant's gonna be the one making all the improvements.
Sure.
So they just signed documents over to let the tenant apply. That was an improvement with the new portfolio of grants, was extending it to that.
What about churches? Commercial or what are they considered?
Churches, religious, those types of buildings will only be exterior because the churches are usually a nonprofit. So for the standard grants, right now, they don't apply. They can't apply for any standard grants because nonprofits can't apply for standard grants at all. With the change, we're opening it up, the exterior grant to nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
You mentioned the art installation aspect for the exterior is reimbursable. Is that is it also for a portion of the exterior cost, or is it simply for the specific art that's done, like the artist that comes in?
So the art is being added as a reimbursable expense under the exterior grant. So they have to make some underlying building improvement in order to be qualified to get reimbursement towards the mural, and the cost to the mural would be, the materials and the labor. So say they were going to take the building and they were going to repair the wall, and that's their primary work. They could add on, the mural as an accessory or an ancillary expenditure to their grant. But they couldn't come in for just the mural by itself. They have to make sure that they're doing some other improvements to the building.
And then we have Corey's the arts coordinator.
Mhm.
Is that his title? Yeah, so we have an arts coordinator who's going to help us review any sort of art, addition to whatever else they're doing with the exterior improvements.
There's some criteria and a process for adding art into your grant.
Is there a deadline when they need to make the applications by?
Our applications are first qualified, first funded, while we have funding each year. So there's not like a funding cycle per se. So new funds potentially could every budget year could come in, but it really depends on how many people apply and how much they're asking for and what's in the budget.
You know if you have any applicants for me?
For the commercial?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
That's the
report.
skinny one.
Yeah.
We have potential applicants. I don't think
but
we're
don't
having
think we have
active
an actual-
applications
Yeah.
that we're reviewing right now, but we do have people who have indicated they are planning to apply, who have come in and done the pre-application meeting.
I tried to flip it 5 times. You see how stainless it is? I mean, it's like a dot. It's like.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't even see what the heck it is.
Yeah, for instance, as you dub at the church, they
Yes.
have the pre-consultation meeting,
Mhm.
but it's pending the submittal of an application, so.
So you got Meacham, Curtis Baptist. What's that third one say? Bell Pharmacy? Is that, oh, that's what the pharmacy was down here. Housing Authority, LD&D, Housing Authority. What about artwork like in like a park? Would they be able to do something like that to get a grant to get like additional artwork in the park?
So that's city property.
The city property, you'd have to work with.
Okay.
I wouldn't go through a grant because we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because this is one of the only parks that actually has some money in it.
That's who we work with Corey for something.
Corey,
like that.
gotcha. Okay.
The THA could apply.
TJ like the buildings though. Or for,
Well, artwork attached to the building.
okay.
Let's
Let's
say that's true.
Or something.
The huge Ray Charles piano.
Yeah,
Keeps talking about.
okay. All right, excellent.
Um,
Where have you seen the biggest change through this program? Which CRA or CDC CRA?
We've seen a lot of activity in West Tampa and East Tampa.
Yeah.
Those are probably the predominant number of grants we've awarded have been in West Tampa and East Tampa.
And what have they done?
A combination of interior and exterior grants. So we have a couple of full building projects where they're doing both the interior and the exterior, and then we have a couple of projects that are maybe just doing the exterior, just doing the interior.
Were they vacant buildings before?
Yeah, pretty much the vast majority of them were vacant or they were being totally revitalized. Like we have a strip center in East Tampa. So they had multiple businesses in there and they're bringing the whole building up to code. It's a really older building. No, it's over on 50th.
Oh.
So they came through and they did the whole exterior. So they did the exterior of the building. They fixed broken glass. They fixed all their signage. They repaved the parking lot. They did landscaping. They painted. They did roof repairs and things like that. And so now they're working on the interior of the building to bring the electrical wiring up to code and things like that. It was a property that's been in disrepair for quite a while. So, but the majority of them, like the ones in West Tampa we're seeing, they're vacant. The properties have just been sitting there unused, and now people are coming in to, it's a combination of tenants and property owners getting the grant awards coming in to revitalize those spaces.
So in that situation where they were vacant and they're getting the inside and outside, then are they gonna be leasing that out, or do they have a business that's already coming in there, or how does that work?
If it's a tenant, the person doing it, they're coming in, the business is coming in. All of them, to my knowledge, everybody who's come in for a grant has a business plan for filling the space. They're not just doing it as a speculative, they have an actual business or an operation or an end use intended for that space.
And did they look at anything like how long the business has been around, or if it's a startup, or anything that really kind of sways that either way?
Well, the grants are matching reimbursement grants. So the people doing the work who get the award have to pay for everything up front. They have to complete all the work, pay all their contractors, get a certificate of occupancy from the city before we do the reimbursement. So they have to have a plan for how they're going to, they have to get financing for it. They've got to have a plan for, the business being operational in order to do that. So there's not really a lot of risk for the CRA because if they don't do the project, we don't pay, even if we awarded it. If they don't finish it, it doesn't get paid.
Gotcha. And then if they default within say 5 years?
So there's restrictive covenants for the property, and that's strictly for 5 years. If it's under 150, if the grant is under $150,000. There's a 5-year restrictive covenant, and that's really strictly to make sure that they keep the property in good shape, they pay their taxes, and they don't remove any of the improvements the CRA is paid for. So even if it shifts tenants, say you had somebody come in and they were going to be an ice cream shop, and the ice cream shop is only there for 2 years, and someone else comes in, they're a sandwich shop, and they can use the same improvements, it's fine. Because the improvements are still there, they're still being utilized, they're still supporting the property and the business.
But it would have to be a similar use case then, right? Because if it's an ice cream shop, it can turn into a bike shop.
Right, and if they tear everything out, then that's when we would have asking them to repay the funds that they got from the grant, yes, if they tore stuff out.
Is this a change that tenants can apply for the interior and exterior?
That was a change in last June, when the grants, before that was only the property owners. That was a challenge that we had encountered when we did the audit of all the grants. We saw a lot of tenants who would like to, would have the ability to renovate the spaces that they lease, especially long-term tenants. But the property owners weren't willing to invest the money or go through the grant process. So that was one of the improvements they made with the new grants. And that's been successful because a good number of the businesses coming in getting grant awards for tenants.
Yeah. Any questions? Awesome, thanks so much, appreciate it.
All right, thank you again for your time. The grant and funding policy updates that we've talked about are scheduled to be considered by the CRA board at their July 24th meeting. And if they approve them, they will go into effect on October 1. So, all right,
Thanks again.
thank you.
All right, so we will move on to affordable housing funding requests, Key Parks. Is that our lady thing you said?
Yeah, she should be here, she's got it more, but we can move
Yeah.
on. Here.
Oh, he's here? Trap.
Good timing.
Right on time. I don't know if she'll get set up.
That's okay, going to number
Yeah.
5, CRA manager staff reports, the fiscal year 26 draft budget.
Yeah, so you have, this for Central Park had the highest increase.
Yay.
So just look at this page, this is the numbers that we received from the property appraiser's office, the preliminary tax numbers for each of the CRA areas. And so what we were basing our draft number on, which was last year's number, because we didn't know what the increase would be, it actually went up 43%.
Great.
The largest one of all of the CRAs. So we had an additional $604,000. So I included in your budgets, where we landed with our total expected TIF revenue, which is $2 million, above the 1.4 off to that left side. We were just doing a draft budget about the 1.4, and again, not knowing how much it was going to increase, but it went out with $2 million. So again, 30% immediately, so that the realized increased revenue, 30% goes to affordable housing, and the rest we put into neighborhood infrastructure.
Do we know where that increase came from? Like, is there a breakdown of?
It's the developments that would have come online. Do you know, like, over the last couple of years, what the new developments would have been?
They're within our boundaries?
Yeah, they would have received their CO in the last year or two.
Anything in Nebraska, like Jamie's place, that J-Doe or Bread Place probably, that's been in your business, La Fatima, that's only been there for a couple years, right?
I was thinking a couple of big Encore buildings.
Yeah, they're relatively.
Yeah, there would have been substantial developments to have that kind of an increase.
Yeah, I thought Navarro was in the last couple of years that they got their CO.
So anyway, have an increase. So there's the draft budget, balanced. I just skipped ahead beat in case you needed a breather.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. She's been running around. So that's the budget. We're good, we're balanced. And then the capital projects and tracking and commercial grants tracking sheets, they are as usual in your meeting packets. If you have any questions, we can review those. The follow-up items that we discussed last month, these were the items that Thomas provided at the bottom of the agenda, things that we may want to just cover or do some follow-up on for the CAC report out. So I did talk to the captain, extra police patrol in Nebraska. Captain College is aware. He said that they address these issues daily, although TPD has 2 officers designated solely as homeless liaisons for the entire city. They spend almost all their time downtown. They work with code enforcement to disrupt unlawful camping areas and clean the area once the campsite is removed. They also work with FDOT to remove campers from underneath the interstate, and FDOT has a contractor that cleans the area as well. So that's just I wanted to provide that feedback with extra police patrol in Nebraska.
The same police team that normally does reports at the CRA.
The homeless liaison officers, Jasmine House.
Yeah.
And then there is an extra duty officer assigned to Saunders Library. And so college has requested that individual to pay additional attention to the homeless presence near or across the street from the library. So I did follow up with him, so I just wanted to let you know the captain is aware of those concerns.
Yeah, a lot of it, just in my opinion, is a lot of just the litter and the waste. You know what I'm saying? Like when people are hanging out there and there's just so much garbage that's on there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't know if someone can be, it's obviously you don't want to be on someone that's on hard times, but it gets to be a little bit out of control after a while. So it's like, is that an opportunity where they could trespass someone after a certain amount of time to say that you can no longer be coming down here? You know what I mean? If you're disrespecting this area, you're throwing your garbage everywhere, you're not taking care of that, you know what I mean? What's the protocol on that?
Yeah, they would have to, I'd have to ask TPD what they can and can't do, if they're not doing anything illegal.
Well, littering.
Yeah, littering.
I know it's a great area and it's like something's got to give, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I also reached out to my FDOT person about that question about litter by 275.
Yeah.
And so she said, similarly, currently the FDOT, they have a partnership that addresses, with the city of Tampa and FDOT have a partnership that addresses the homeless and related trash cleanup of sites under the overpasses and on adjacent FDOT property. The current process is Jasmine House, who's a homeless liaison officer. She contacts FDOT of an encampment or individuals at underpasses. City of Tampa homeless officers remove the individuals from the area and offer to meet FDOT subcontractors in the field for cleaning. And then FDOT subcontractor cleans and documents clean condition and sends pictures to Jasmine.
So this is something that I sent to code enforcement. It's literally, if we were to pull out of here on Scott Street over Nebraska, this is literally what the trash looks like. You see that? Like right there. Those are, you know what I mean, by the plaza.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like who's keeping an eye on that? You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing where this trash can. So you think about that 10 times as I walk all along the streets, you see that all the time.
So which trash?
So this is gonna be, if we were to leave here, and you go over Nebraska, there's one stop, right there, that church is right there, right across from Tampa Park Plaza.
So I wonder who is picking that trash up.
I sent it to code enforcement, I think that they addressed it, but you know,
Okay.
there's a lot of illegal dumping that's going on up on like Mitchell too, you know what I mean? Because there's just not enough eyes and ears on there. So that's my biggest concern, is getting TPD to make sure they're patrolling that, not just sitting in the library and looking across the street and going, yeah, you know what I mean? Get out there. If that's the person who's gonna be able to enforce it, they need to enforce it.
What do they mean when they say they remove them? What do they do with homeless people?
Tell them to pick rocks.
Yeah, I don't know honestly how that is defined.
I think there's a liaison that does their best to try to offer help as far as things go, but a lot of times that person doesn't necessarily want help. That's what I've encountered in the past, and I know that there's been times where it has worked well, but I know that there's a lot of times when that person doesn't want to, they're I don't want to say fine with the way they are, what it is, but it's just, that's their moment. But the big thing for me too, that now that they're gonna be opening Henderson, it's gonna go under that, it's gonna be to Central, whereas that overpass, that's all blocked off now. So you don't have a lot of the foot traffic that residents would be able to go down there. I am almost like thinking that's gotta be crazy as far as encampments and whatnot down there, because that's the whole purpose, is to try to reconnect all of these blocks and neighborhoods and stuff. And if you've got people that are literally living under there, you're not gonna want to walk under there. So just trying to get ahead of things before they become an issue.
We talked about the trash, but there's another issue that goes along with the trash, that same water fountain. People wash their clothes in it. Yeah, and we don't see that.
Water feature that's over there by.
And so I wonder around the city how often that happens. So it's a health issue too. I just wonder what the process is. I mean, is there any means of making anything better? Or is it just
So it's the homeless that are washing clothes in the water feature, but is this a Perry Harvey Park?
No, that may be happening there, but I was specifically talking about the same site where the garbage is. There's a water fountain.
Oh, drinkable water fountain. Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Drinkable water fountain. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I can.
Because that's a tough one. Yeah, it's like, is it parks? Is it city Tampa? Is it code enforcement? Is it TPD? Yeah.
And the point is not so much trying to stop them from doing that, but the reason that they're doing it is because they need to wash their clothes. So are there any services for people?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a Mr. Suds or Mr. Bubbles or something, that's what I've been trying to work with for the pastor's wife. And they have a mobile service that goes around that does mobile showers, and then I believe they're able to get new clothes, and I believe there's an opportunity for them to wash clothes. So I was gonna try to see if we could get something down on this, and they do it once a month, I believe.
Okay.
Let's see, in case
Plans for city-owned lots within the CRA boundaries.
yeah,
1103 North Nebraska Avenue. That property is restricted due to brownfields.
is that where the gas station was on the corner of Paul and Nebraska? So we said 1103?
1103, yeah, North Nebraska.
Let's see.
Is it fenced off now?
I think that's what she's talking about.
Because that became a problem for that business across the street, because now people don't have parking.
This is across the street from where we're at right now.
Oh, no.
That's what your 1103 is literally right across from
That's how it's building right there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's where it's like, here's the train station, where it kind of came into a V.
Oh,
And we had, I think, one time talked about being able to use that as green space, so that
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and actually, I brought that up recently with Corey, that, so could we clean it up and.
It's honestly pretty cleaned up, it's just using it.
Right, I mean, do the brownfield remediation on that side.
Why is it brownfield?
I know,
What was there?
I don't know.
Big oil stuff and stuff, I think it was, not refineries, but it was pretty industrial. Way back, right next to the railroads like that.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So what does that mean? It means it's dangerous to be on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, contamination.
I mean, what level of being on it makes it dangerous? Walking
Yeah.
across it, playing on it, what happens?
Yeah, I don't know if it has to be remediated to remove any contamination, whether that's.
And then it begs the question of why that strip versus the church right next door?
Mm-hmm.
What are the boundaries of it? Yeah, exactly. Like,
I mean, if it's on the ground, I'm sure it's not stopping right at that line, that street.
I know.
I wonder too if a lot of it has to do with, you know, back in the day would bury a lot of the garlic and stuff too. If there's like, that was a spot when they put like old furnaces or something. I don't know. Yeah, okay. I'll look at that.
Anyway, but I have Corey actually looking into it with real estate, because I said, well, could we, since the city already owns it, can we go ahead and pay for the remediation of it? And, you know, so a gateway entry there or something.
Something.
Yeah.
So, this is kind of curious to me though, because with all this building going on,
Yeah, I don't know where the line is.
yeah, I mean, that seems a little crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know enough about brownfields, but, yeah. It is curious.
Or is it a cemetery?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I
that,
thought Gasworks was,
Sorry about that. Hello.
All right.
so that's one, which is I don't think we give up the answer to the lot right there.
1526 North Nebraska. 1526 North Nebraska Avenue, there are no specific plans.
Am I not seeing that?
Oh, well, these are my notes.
Oh,
Sorry.
so they're not in there, okay.
Yeah, it's not on here.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I just wanted to see, so let me tell me that address again.
1526 Nebraska Avenue.
That's probably a parking lot.
Says no specific plans.
Wi-Fi services. 1526, that's going to be right across from the library parking lot. So we're, so like there's where Mr. Dees is right there, across the street, there's Temple Plaza, there's the library, it's right there. So it used to be a residential, single family lot, basically.
And it's still residential cemetery?
I think it's still zoned residential. Oh, you know what? No, that's where we tore the building down. A little blue building. That's exactly what it is.
Oh.
Yeah, so there used to be a little blue commercial building that was there. It was near where Blue Note was. And then right next door to that was just this random blue building that they tore down. So there's no,
There's no specific plan.
okay,
Okay. And then I'll stop there and we can let
okay.
Dee do her presentation.
Okay, so hello, D Parks. This is the first time I'm meeting D Parks, CRA Community Development Coordinator, first time meeting. I know that. And okay, welcome. Yeah, I didn't.
He used to come.
Oh, maybe do the Zoom, the Teams that day. No.
I've been going to a lot of meetings here
Okay.
and there
Okay.
before I do it.
Your voice. Okay, so I'm here to introduce a funding request. Can we actually put it up there if we can?
Well, I have it in their packet.
Okay, all right, okay. So if you have it in your package, you have another one. So she gave her this. Okay. I'm going to introduce. This will be the first affordable housing funding request for Central Park. I've been very creatively busy trying to find some type of options that are within reason and also within our budget to move at least something in the area. So, this is actually a funding request for a project that, I'm gonna let Joanna speak about the project. But it comes from a Lawyer Realty Development.
The development.
And the development division, and they have already acquired this parcel from the city of Tampa's infield program. So if you're not aware of the infield program, every year, the city of Tampa releases through a request for proposal any land that they're going to put out to the community to build affordable housing on. So they, in the past couple of years, have been going through their lottery system that pretty much all the developers who are approved and said, okay, they're ready to be placed in this pool of contractors. The lottery then selects which lot goes to which contractor, and then, they then are, signed agreements with those developers to develop affordable housing. Okay, in this case, the lots was awarded through that process, and today is a funding request for subsidy to create those units. Now, a little bit of background, and this is in the process of, but all of our attainable housing projects come with a 50-year affordability restricted covenants. That means that whatever monies we give out, that unit is preserved for 50 years meaning that it's going to be sold to a low to moderate income buyer that's under 140% area median income. What does that mean? That means that a workforce housing, a person who makes close to 100,000 can still qualify to move into this unit under the income. Again, a lot of individuals, tend to go for that 80% spot, which is like that 56,000 that can still qualify because they have areas of getting down payment assistance, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm here to present, to invite Joanna Colebrook. She's from Laura's Realty to speak about the project today.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you for having me and for considering our request. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and our company. Allure was really founded as a real estate company, and then we started to do development. So my partner and owner, she is retired military, so she has some things that makes her retired veteran, women-owned. And so we applied for some veteran VA government type deals as well. But then with my background in economic development and affordable housing, I bought my first home with down payment assistance. So I do know the importance of it and how important it is to have housing. I was a single mom, and it was a benefit for me to be able to purchase my first home and be able to sell it and build wealth and make money and help put my son through community college. I know I don't look that old, but but I do have a 26-year-old. But we started this initiative as we started the initiative, the infill lot, a couple of years ago, and we were awarded the lot. We were thankful for that, and now we're in the realm where now we're finishing the financing. Really want to get to starting to build, and as you can see, our goal is to build 6 townhomes. I'm going to be very transparent. We think we will only be able to do 5. We're in the middle of getting that confirmation from our architect, who is very experienced, ASD, you can look them up. So we're working with an experienced contractor who has done affordable housing development. We're working with a architect company who's very skilled as well. So we're really want to get 6 because we know the need for affordable housing is there, but we may be only able to commit to 5. And so my request today is for funding to help bridge the gap of development costs. We know that the housing construction costs are going up for a number of different reasons, but we still want to have the commitment of building and being able to sell at that affordable rate. And so that is the reason for the request. And you have, I was going to just say, you have the address and the location. It's an empty lot. And we have some plans that we submitted. It's the same plans we submitted when we went out for the infill lot. And none of that has changed. We're just trying to figure out if there are going to be any variances which will allow us to build more as opposed to less.
What are the lot dimensions?
I don't know them off the top of my head. I think I don't know. I have the survey. I could pull that up on my phone. I'm not 100% sure. Let me pull it. I can pull up the survey.
Yeah, I'm just curious if it was just like a 50 by 100.
Oh,
It was a bigger.
it's a bigger one. Mhm.
Yeah, cause it was, it's 100 by
So
100.
does it go all the way to Oak Street?
No, it's like in the middle.
So you could have potentially something on either side, because there's the big house that's on,
That blue one. I really want that.
that
house.
greenish one, that one that's right next door.
Yeah, it's like a bluish green, I think. I spoke with the owner. We actually had breakfast. He's renting it out. And then there's the white house it's like a commercial.
There's that one that's right next door.
That's the one.
That's the one you were looking, that you do want.
I do want.
So that one just got sold in 2019. That's
Mhm.
Frank Payne that owns that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
his name is Frank.
Yeah, he owns a lot of property.
He does.
Like a lot, or a lot. And then that one right there, correct?
Yes.
And then so there's gonna be potentially an empty space, then you guys, and another empty space. Or are you gonna
We
figure
own
out
all, that is
the lot
part of
line?
all of that.
The lot line to that fence does where you guys
Yes,
start,
that's correct.
but it doesn't go all the way to Oak Hill. So does it
Correct.
stop at that house right around there?
No, it kind of L shapes. It
Okay.
doesn't stop. It's like an L shape. Hold on, let me pull up the survey. It kind of does it.
And
Yeah,
then
I think
it's right here, right? This one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so like, what would their parking situations feel like in these townhomes?
That's what we're working through. So our goal is to have a one garage for every unit, and then right outside of the office, you can park one car, and then using the street as well that's out there.
Okay. So this is Mitchell, or this is Mitchell?
Mitchell is that way.
This
Yes, correct.
Okay, I got you. So that's gonna be that. What the heck is that? Yeah, funky lot lines, huh?
Mhm. It really is.
It's because, yeah, that house that you were speaking of, that faces, so that was one that we were really thinking, that was one I told you, Bima, that I thought would be, because we don't have a lot of residential single family homes in the
Mhm.
boundaries, that would have been the best applicant, but then I saw that it was sold. and so-
Yeah.
It's a rental property now?
It is a rental. He said here's what he told me, he's willing to do a land swap.
Oh,
But I don't know what to swap with him. I don't have anything. But he did say he could possibly be open to doing a swap. I spoke with him.
gotcha.
So in sense, based off of our matrix that is in your packet as well, they're maxed at, regardless, they're maxed at 450 sales price. So that's binded by their infill agreement. At that time, I think it's less.
You are correct, but our goal is to sell it for much less.
Yes,
Because we really.
But I want to just say, flat out, they can go up to 450 because that is set by Florida Housing Coalition as affordable, attainable housing sales price, okay? So, but of course, as they mentioned, with, of course, development assistance along with their, financing, they are committed to do less than that to make sure that they're not gouging it. But I'm full transparent. We are governed by the Florida Housing guidelines, and they can sell for 450. They cannot sell for no more throughout the entire time.
And are these gonna be zone townhomes where they own the land, or is this more like a condo where?
No, they're going to own the land. It goes to the end user. So the possibility of down payment assistance for these people is available as well. But it's like a traditional sale. The only thing is that on the deed will be the restriction of the affordable part for the 50 years. And then it will also have the contact information for the city for if they do sell it to someone within that period, then we are contacted so that we can income qualify that new buyer into that property. So that's how we make sure that it's going to a person who makes less than 100.
But is there any restriction, so I get the restriction on the tenant or the end buyer in a resale case, how is the property restricted to be something that is considered affordable housing? after it's purchased. If I buy it tomorrow for 400 and I try my best to sell to somebody who is, at a certain income level, but I sell it to them for 5.
You could always sell it, for example, you could always sell it for more than the price that's outlined by the funding agreement. You just have to pay the assistance that we provided. Meaning that in that case, then, they have to be monitoring this contract as well. So if we give them, which we're giving, if approved, we're in contract with Allure Realty. It's the end user, but each land is attached to them, making sure that they're keeping up with that restriction as well. So both the buyer and they can sell it, they just have to pay, like if you put 75K in the deal, they will just responsible for paying that money back to the tip. Because you could either resell it to an income eligible buyer or resell it out the program. A lot of people are not going to be doing that because where are you really going to find this price point at? So and if the individual gets down payment assistance, they're restricted through down payment assistance as well, that if they go ahead and sell the house as well, they have to pay whatever assistance was provided to them within that term.
I understand the down payment assistance part. I guess I'm curious how our contribution would go into it to make it affordable and then ensure that the next user gets it affordably as well.
Well, our contribution goes to the construction cost to build the unit. So they're already writing it down off of their cost, right? The buyer will get the down payment assistance that write down the mortgage. So again, like I said, in the agreement with the developer, we put the clause that they have to contact us, that them and the seller, once they go and sell it to another individual, this happened 10 times this year. Once they sell it through the first infill, not y'all's, but the first main one, there's a couple of sellers. Within that time, they contacted the city, we received their application, and we made sure they were income eligible, and then we went ahead and sent a letter to them and said, you're able to purchase this property because you're under 120% AMI. All of that is on the deed restriction covenants that's placed with the property. So no one can skip contacting us for negotiation. No one can skip that. That's on a deed. They have to contact the city of Tampa in order to clear that sale, regardless. So we're binded by a funding agreement that we provide them for, my recommendation was going to be $75K per unit, because you can max out at 140% area median income for each one of those houses. So that was my recommendation, and we have the budget for that. But that funding agreement will outline all of these terms that they agreed to. And then for the land itself, it's recorded through the mortgages that they gave.
So it's not like a certain percentage below market income. I'm thinking down the road, like 10 years. I understand the point qualifying. Obviously the income will increase, but like 10 years from now, when that person that was lower income in the AMI sells it, they're selling it at, because I heard you talk about like filling the gap in between. If they sell it for a higher amount, then the gap gets filled to make sure that the property's still sold at an affordable value at that point in time. Which 500 at that point in time may be considered affordable.
Correct.
But how do we know where it's under it's got to be under the market value at some point, right?
Yeah.
Or be under.
Yeah.
For it to be affordable.
Yeah, at the time of this contract, it is going to be restricted at 450.
Okay.
So throughout the whole time, it's going to be 450.
Okay.
Throughout the 50 years, it cannot exceed unless that person wants to just sell their house for market value and pay the city back for the money that we put in, or the CRA back for the money.
Perfect.
No matter what, they're binded to pay back if they sell outside the terms.
Okay. Perfect. That was my question.
They have a couple of options.
Got it. Perfect.
Okay. It's not restricted them, nor is it restricting them from getting any HELOCs or home equity lines of credit. We've dealt with all that, all types of scenarios with these type of restrictions. But again, all of that is, as soon as they try to sell it for market, they'll communicate, hey, we're not selling it, we're selling it for market. At that point, they will have to pay for what they put in.
Okay, no, perfect. That's
I will
what-
say that I know that the city will negotiate. And will come, like, meaning that, hey, if they're selling it, let's say they just have to sell it, they can't find a buyer, so they're gonna sell it out of the restriction, then the city will kind of negotiate a price prorated depending on which year they're gonna sell it out of. So again, it's not like, okay, you're gonna get the full 300K back or whatever, because it depends on what that market resists at that time. So it's different factors. The reason why we provide subsidy is so we can restrict the units at affordable for 50 years term.
Perfect.
Well, I think you answered what I was gonna ask when you used the example of 75,000. That if it's 10 years from now and somebody wants to get out of it, they just pay you 75,000, but you just said it's negotiable.
Yes.
So my question is, whatever that was, is it adjusted for inflation for what gets paid back?
Yes. They look at the current market at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening now with
So
these homes
instead of owning 450 or 75,000, you may own twice that much. To pay back.
Oh, no, meaning that they'll look at the market as it relates to how they negotiate their pay. No, it's not gonna be
So
that they'll
it's
get
flat
more.
in terms of what
The maximum will be the 75, correct,
Okay.
on that end.
And these are places that y'all have built so far, is
Yes.
that correct?
What's the average square foot gonna be on each of the units?
1,300.
1300.
Yes.
And they're 32.
Yes.
And what's the reason, I'm sorry, between whether you can do 6 or 5?
Just like if they're going to allow us to do any parking variances or setbacks, make any concessions that you would normally have or not have for affordable housing, because you have to have, the units sit back a certain amount of square footage from the sidewalk or the number of parking spaces you have to have.
So do you have any of these particular townhomes built already? No.
No.
These are all single family that you guys have done so far?
Yes.
So this would be your first
Correct.
multifamily?
Yes.
And they all are connected, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there's gonna be 2 end units and then
Yes.
3 and 4 in the middle?
Correct.
Okay. And the garages are gonna be a rear access or front access?
Rear.
Rear, so that's like an alleyway that goes
Yes.
between those two? Does
And
that
the
help?
alleyway's not there now.
Yeah, does that go all the way through or is that dead end where that big house is?
I kind of did it.
It dead ends where that big house is. But was that taken over, do you know, or was that possible to be reopened?
I mean, I could check this.
Because that's gonna be a pain in the ass if you're not gonna, if you're gonna have to only have one way in, one way out, or that's gonna be a lot better to have it linear, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
From Oak to Palm, basically. you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Well, no, they'll have to, so they're, from Mitchell, there'll be an entryway, or from the main street, and then we think from where the White House, there's an alley, we gotta figure that part out.
Yeah, but I'm saying you got a big curve there, that's not a big curve, but a curve that's there right now.
Yes,
So you're thinking you're gonna have cars pull in this way, or it's gonna be a garage, but it's not gonna go all the way through, correct?
correct.
So then an alley, what's the point of having an alley if you're not gonna be able to park on the other side of the garage? Is it gonna be a driveway or?
That's where we're working with the architect. I'm not the best, that's why we have, but we will have those answers. I don't know that answer right now. That's where we're working on the best layout and the best accessibility.
So this is where it's gonna be at, so like this is Oak right here. This is Oak, and then this is gonna be 275 right here.
Oh, he's at the corner of.
Mitchell and Oak, basically, yeah. So it's when there's that one single house that's there, and then this behind the house is the one that's where J Doe is, and then there's that big one, it used to be real sketch, that they fixed up pretty nice right there.
I'm just happy we can walk to the farm factory.
Right there.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, Flan Factory, it's a farm.
Oh, well, I don't know what, I haven't been there. Oh, okay. Wonderful, nice to meet you. I'll have to go check that out.
So yeah, so just to bring that forward, to see if that's a good recommendation, to move it along.
I think if we can get some of those questions answered, that would be good. You know, I think I would feel a little more confident on there, just to have it a little more tied up, just because I know in the past when I've gone up and spoken to them, they've asked me for that, so just kind of preparing me for that, you know, and having those questions that I asked you, they're probably gonna come back, so I would feel more confident that way, that's just me personally.
Yeah, so the architect, I actually just spoke with her yesterday. She's supposed to have our final drafting over where our meeting with our contractor Tuesday. And so it won't be an issue to get that back through fairly quickly.
So what is the timeline as far as moving this forward to the CRA board? I mean, ideally for final approval, do you have a deadline that you're trying to work within?
So, if we look at, now we're, you guys want to receive the information and digest it because we don't have a meeting, a CAC meeting next month. Because I was going to push it for August, but then we could push it to September to CRA board.
How does that fall within your timeline?
So I will tell you it's tight. So here, the agreement, there's specific guidelines. We have the infill lot. So the lot was just turned over to us a month ago. Finally, so we have 90 days, to be honest, to start. It's a tight timeline because, and they're also gonna fast track the permitting, for it as well.
Yeah.
They're extra, in order to get through. So if we don't go through until September, that is going to be kind of a challenge.
Well, I wonder
It
if
is
it's
reimbursement.
if just conceptually.
Yeah, it's reimbursement regardless.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you have to prove that you have those finances in
To
order.
move her,
Yeah.
financing.
I get it, like I said, fine.
Well, I was wondering if we could make a motion today still that just conceptually, we support this, but the group did request response. But I don't think it would.
Somebody wants to make a motion, that sounds
Well, just to make sure we're talking about 75,000 for the.
per unit.
Per
Yeah,
unit.
right.
So at first, she will have to get back with us about the 6 units.
Yes.
Because at the moment, if we do the 5 by 75K, that's 375,000.
So can you kind of go over this with what we're talking about? Let's estimate $1.8 million, that's 300,000 per unit, what's that?
So there were some parameters
Yeah.
that the CRA has on the max that we can ask per unit. But 75 is all that we can ask for, so that's where those numbers adjusted.
Okay.
So those right there is her estimated $1.8 million investment from them. And their cost is the 300K per unit.
Oh, you're on that, I'm
You're on
sorry.
that. Isn't
I
that
thought you were
yours?
asking, yes, I thought he was asking, I thought there was a warrant, how much did I ask for, did we ask for, sorry. So we estimate, yes, that it would be building 300,000 per unit.
That's their construction cost.
And then selling at 360?
That's what we were looking at selling at 360. That's-
Pretty good.
Yeah,
But
it's not to really,
If they have $75,000.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
more, they keep it for.
And this is, you see how that just conversation happened? This is how hard it is to develop affordable housing. There's not a lot of people that want to even be in the arena.
Yeah.
So it's not like I just want to say, you get 75, you get 70, you get 50 over it. It just that's what it takes to get the job done. So that's why, just based off of cost, I have costs all day long, especially in rehab currently, but, yeah. So that's it.
Did that answer your question?
So just based off of the, Joanna getting back with us about the possible six units, right? That had us at the 450K ask at 6 units. But just 75K times 5 is 375 for 5 units. You're meeting with the architect to determine what.
Yeah, like I said, if anybody wants to make a motion to say that we are in favor of just with some of those additional questions answered, I mean, is that kind of discussion? Is that, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
Again, moving forward, it seems like we should be supportive of this, if you
Yeah.
make a motion, so. to support. I mean, I guess we can't say we recommend it yet if we don't have all the exact details.
Well, you could say 75 per unit.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it could be 5, it could be 6.
Yes.
But we know not
So
to
we can say
exceed
75.
75 per developed unit. But then, I mean, I don't know that the motion necessarily has to say that we want the follow-up
Okay.
answers, but I know B will.
Yeah, no, I
will-
will, yes.
Well, I know that they will provide them. But I think that's kind of outside
For
of,
that?
we want the construction.
For
We want the
affordable
construction of the
housing?
affordable housing.
Is that what we have in our budget, that's 400,000 for that?
So,
Yeah, so we're,
yeah.
Courtney, you wanna speak on what we were doing?
Well,
And-
which, yeah,
And this is a 3-year agreement. So meaning that, well, in this case, you have 2 years on your term. How long did they give you?
To actually complete the build,
Yeah, I thought it was like.
it's
her
almost
term.
2, it's almost 2 years.
Yes, because the CRA gives, these deals in 3 years, so it's in sense gonna be the full term divided by 3.
Oh, okay.
You get what I'm saying?
And this is
So-
unit creation.
Correct.
So if you all look at the budget, there's a unit creation and conversion under the affordable housing numeral 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we can adjust these numbers
Yes.
within this cost, called a cost center.
Okay.
So we have the funding, as you can see, if you add those four numbers up, we have way over the amount being requested.
Mhm.
It just needs to be shifted by our analyst, our budget analyst,
Mhm.
into the unit creation and conversion, which she already knows to do if this were approved.
Yeah.
So we just put the requested amount or approved amount in that particular line item.
Gotcha. So we could basically take it out from that 400.
Yeah, correct. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the motion should say out of the unit creation and conversion line item, just knowing that we can pluck in that.
Move from one bucket to the other.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it's great, I really do. I'm just, like I said, curious about the surroundings on there, just what they're gonna be doing with that as well, because a lot of times when you build what you guys have and then something across the street might not be as
So
supportive, I
what
guess,
type
for
of
that.
what type of houses is gonna go, like, you know, what elevation?
Oh, like the elevation
Yeah,
of it.
elevation.
Oh, yes, it's, I can send you what we envisioned, but we'll have it finalized next week.
Yeah.
And if you have a thought,
2-story, yeah,
It's
because it's
2-story.
gonna be the townhome attached.
And working through this grant, are there any additional inspections or city requirements that they have to meet for building?
Well, they have to build the code, so
Well, right,
throughout
yes.
every process, there's gonna be the inspection.
Yeah,
So,
but there's nothing additional.
no additional, no additional, we just make sure we get everything outlined in the funding agreement that specifies everything, the affordability, period and all of that. And on our end, we just follow the project, you know, so we can report it out and stuff like that, but no requirement.
and just to be clear, I know we talked about that, and just so everyone's clear, it's a reimbursement, so obviously as we meet milestones, that's when the funds will be reimbursed. So it's not like you're giving the money up
Yeah,
front
correct.
or.
And that would be outlined in the funding agreement per, phase construction at 35% complete, 50% complete, 75% complete.
And you just see it for all of them at one time, or are you gonna have somebody move into one while you're still building others? Or-
Well, it depends on how they pre-sell it, because that happens. I mean, you could have someone just buy it and then move it in one while you're building the rest. So that can happen.
Ideally, that's not what we would want, but you're right.
Yeah.
Definitely, the goal would be.
Ideally, I think they want to finish all of it, us have a big presser,
Mhm.
you know, Courtney,
Mhm.
the city council, CRA, you know, TV board,
and you all,
us, and then, you know, of course, hopefully, you know, I think these are gonna be extremely easy to pre-sell. I mean,
We've already.
right when she picks
Yeah.
it up, it's probably gonna be gone. But again, in her case, it benefits from, you know, that down payment assistance side to make sure that these individuals, of course, they have to be income eligible anyway, but just to make sure that there's people that are like that lower income bracket, that they have an opportunity. Because there's down payment assistance out there. Well, an individual that makes 50% to 80% AMI, and I'm talking about 35K to 55K, can get up to $100,000 worth of down payment assistance right now. So that's just buying down the price of the house.
Thoughts?
No, I don't.
I think there's still a motion, right? There's still a motion.
Or did you make?
I
You
didn't.
didn't make it yet.
Okay.
You started it.
A big question mark there. Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend for approval this
Second.
You want me to just write the motion? So it's gonna be recommend approval of the $75,000 per developed unit coming from the unit creation line item.
Am
That,
I lips moving? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I second.
okay.
Is there any comment or conversation on that? Dave?
Sounds good to me.
Crystal?
I mean, it'd be nice to see, like you said, the future.
Actually, there's,
What
I
it
know a lot of uncertainty, but a good amount of
What the
uncertainty.
future look like.
Absolutely, that's not an issue, and you should know that. Absolutely, and I think you'll be proud of it, but we will share that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so, all in favor? Yay. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. My comment is for this board to, once this project kicks off, people who you know live here or people that you know need this type of housing, to contact us so we can make sure we route them to the right entity to get pre-qualified, to get their homebuyer education course, to go ahead and get their reservation in for down payment assistance. I'm talking about low to moderate income. That, I'm not saying to not violate any fair housing laws, but this program is for people who make a certain income, and we want to make sure at least we give those people opportunity to purchase.
Good.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna do like any kind of HOA or CDD or anything on that?
The goal is for us, so I live in a townhome in East Tampa, and they did a waiver, so we don't have a HOA, or we're trying to see if we could not have a HOA, and it kind of everyone handles their portion individually on their own. But we're not sure that we get approved yet. So it could be a small HOA and it could not be an HOA at all.
Oh, awesome, thanks so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you all for your
Yeah, I'm
time.
looking forward to seeing what they look like.
So do you think this will be on the CRA board agenda July 24th, or?
That's what I wanted to do. Could we do? That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, because the material deadlines aren't due and are due later because it's a pushback meeting to July 24th.
So,
24th of July, that's what it is?
Yeah.
On
yeah,
Thursday.
so focus on, so July 24th in front of the CRA board, I'll send you the information, and then we'll be in dialogue for that, send them back.
The follow-up. Absolutely.
Because we have advanced material deadlines, so they upload it into the system. for the-
Understood.
Yeah, so I'm blanking out, I just.
Is it today that we have to turn that in?
No, my goal is to turn all the stuff I'm responsible for in by, the 26th,
Okay,
which is Friday, which is next,
Okay.
a week from this Friday.
all right,
Which
perfect.
would be my goal, but there'd still be some, because I'm going to Tokyo.
Yeah.
So I have to get all my stuff done by the 26th, but.
They got internet over there. They got internet over there.
Not for work, not for work internet.
Shoot.
But then there's still some cushion.
No, perfect.
I'll use
I'll
more
work on
time
it.
for material collection.
Yeah.
Just work with Sherry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I will prefer to work with,
Okay.
you know, us.
Yeah, so
Alrighty,
I'm here
Good to see
until
you.
26th.
I just came from a housing inspection, sorry about that. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hank. Two things real quick before we roll out. I just wanted to let you know, I did talk to the Diocese of St. Peter about the Ebenezer Church that's over here that's behind St. Peter Flavor. That is actually under the diocese is St. Peter Flavor as well. So they own that whole entire section. And I had asked them, like, what's their planned use for that? Because it's, kind of got a lot of garbage and like hanging out there and everything. Utilize it. They said that they do have a strategic plan for that. That they don't typically do any kind of sales with the buildings like they have like that. They usually hold on to that. But they said that they do have some strategic plan and we could reach out to them directly, and I can give the email address for that gentleman to you so you can do that. I don't know anything that I shouldn't do, but to maybe see if they could share with us what that strategic plan says, just because I had told him they're over in St. Petersburg and Pinellas, there's so much new development with these guys, and
things that are coming in that I just don't want it to be like another, like, we're gonna have 5 coffee shops down here and 25 ice cream places, you know what I mean? Like, making sure that we're all staying ahead of what is coming in so that it's gonna have a good use for that space. So we could recommend as well. And then the other thing was the Mount Moriah Church, or Salem. I think it's the Salem one that's up here right by Salem, by Saline's or whatever. Rush out.
Okay.
So I looked up, it's for lease right now, because I was gonna call to see what can you use that space for? Is it, because it's a church and it's his LLC that purchased that recently.
Okay.
So I did see him today though at Henriquez's thing at the Cuban Club, but I didn't have a chance to ask him. Or what's his face, Graham. I didn't get a chance to ask them what they want to go in there, because that's gonna be across, those townhomes are on K Street. I think those are gonna L over as well. Those are gonna be the ones that are gonna be facing across the street from there too. So, like, I mean, I just know that when Neville was on here, he had talked about when these guys were building, just like how it's gonna be such a stark difference between, a little church here and then a huge building across the street. And so I just wanna make sure that it's not like this, just like wayward, weird space that it just looks all cohesive. But those are my 2 things that I found out.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then again, we don't have any July CAC meetings, we're taking a break, sports going to Tokyo.
Girl.
And
What was the update on plans for Pink Church? Just because I'm curious. To say that.
They'd applied for a grant.
Yeah, they applied for, they did a pre.
Yeah, I saw it on the thing. So I
Yeah,
was
just
curious
a
what that was.
pre-consultation meeting.
Okay.
Actually, on my notes, I have a little bit more information. Hold on.
Just because every time I drive by, I'm curious as well.
So this is all I have for it. Let's see. The owners had a pre-application meeting February 2025. In March, they let us know they would reach out to us after they receive a certificate of appropriateness, which they expected could take several months. They submitted for to the architectural review committee. The construction bid they submitted for the CA is for $998,000. So I'm not sure if they will be coming back as a special project, which would be less than 500, or a funding request greater than 500. What they asked the CRA for may be influenced by what other funding they are able to secure. My understanding is they also were requesting a state historic preservation grant for $384,000. So, still in limbo.
And they went to the ladies that were here earlier. That's who they had put
Yeah,
the request in with.
Andrea, maybe, I don't know who's assigned, but yeah, this particular group, Andrea. Sorry, Andrea and Kisa, because we didn't know if it was gonna be under 500 or over 500. So Kisa, Andrea, and I met with the group.
Oh, okay.
And now it's just, waiting on them to follow up with an application.
Okay. Do we know if they're still stuck in that church? Or did they
I don't know. We don't do a site visit until there's actually an application. This is just more inquiry.
Okay.
But the application, is it through a church group or a separate ownership now?
There's no church.
So it's just about the
Private owner.
Okay. And they haven't identified any sort of use with this grant?
I think they want to bring back a congregation or a
Okay.
church use with maybe 1 or 2 apartments within it.
Gotcha.
Next to that person, where that house is next to it, basically, is where they would live, correct? So the
Yeah,
church
or
would be
and
a
I think
church.
that's something